I was the kid who got bullied. And my bullies wanted to come to my house to live stream their fun. But they didn't know. My family and all my neighbors are monsters. I stumbled into the apartment building, my body covered in fresh wounds. They'd gotten me again today. They used cigarettes to burn my skin, and a small knife to carve words into my arms. But even that was nothing compared to the fear of coming home. I knew from a very young age that my family wasn't normal. To be more accurate, no one in this entire apartment building is normal. The light bulbs in the building are always burnt out. There's always a woman in the elevator, her back to me, wearing high heels, her face a mystery. The old man at the front desk is always sewing something every night. I often run into a little boy bouncing a ball in the hallway. I've tried taking a cab to school, but the drivers can never find the exact address of my building. The most terrifying of all, though, are my family. I stood at the entrance to the building and took a deep breath. The building is in a busy part of downtown, but it feels completely cut off from the world. It's old and dilapidated, a stark contrast to the modern high-rises around it. And for such a strange, out-of-place building, no passers-by ever seem to notice it. It's like they can't even see it. I pushed down the knot of dread in my stomach and walked inside. But I didn't know that, at the exact moment I stepped through the door, a little girl across the street stared with wide eyes. She tugged on her mother's hand. "Mommy, how did that big girl just disappear?" The second I entered the building, all the noise from the city vanished. Only a dead silence remained. My breathing immediately became short and ragged. The grandpa from the security desk poked his head out. His pupils were huge and intensely black, and his face had a sickly, pale green tint. "Lucy, you're back," he said. He tried to give me a smile, but it was unnaturally stiff. I nodded and quickened my pace toward the elevator. But as I passed his little office, I glanced inside and saw the lower half of a man's body lying on the floor. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I walked even faster. But then Grandpa's voice called out to me, "Lucy, did you see something? Why don't you come in for a bit? I have lots of your favorite candy." I shook my head in terror and sprinted for the elevator. The elevator here breaks down a lot. I watched the display show it rising from the 18th sub-basement. I was already used to it. When the doors slid open, the woman in high heels was there again. She wore red heels and had her back to me. Her feet were arched high, as if she were standing on her tiptoes. I don't know what floor she lives on. It's like she's always in the elevator. I summoned my courage, stepped inside, and pressed the button for my floor. But soon, the light above me started to flicker. I slowly, shakily turned my head. An eye was peering out at me from within the woman's thick, dark hair. But her body was still facing away from me. "You're hurt. Someone hurt you?" A grating, hideous sound squeezed out of her throat. This was the first time the woman had ever spoken to me. I trembled all over, too scared to answer. Thankfully, the elevator had reached my floor. I bolted out of it. The hallway was dark. The overhead light never worked. The hall wasn't even that long, but looking down it, I couldn't see the end. The dark doors on either side were all cracked open, and I could feel eyes staring out at me from the shadows within. I shakily unlocked my front door. The faint smell of blood drifted out. In the corner of the living room were several huge black trash bags. I tried my best not to think about what was inside them. I could hear the sound of chopping from the kitchen. The smell of cooking meat wafted through the air. My mom had her back to me, humming a tune I'd never heard before. "Mom, I'm home," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Mom turned around. She had a beautiful face, but it was a dead, bloodless white. She cracked a smile, trying to look gentle. She didn't know it just made her look even more horrifying. A shiver ran down my spine. Her eyes fell on the cut on my hand. The next second, the lights in the house went out. The entire apartment plunged into a bone-chilling darkness. In the dark, an ice-cold, pale hand grabbed mine. The cold was so sharp it made me flinch. My mom's fingernails were long and sharp. They were painted a bright, crimson red. I could see that under her nails, there seemed to be flecks of bloody, shredded meat. "You're hurt." My mom's tone was still devoid of any emotion. But for some reason, I could feel that she was furious. I cut it by accident, I stammered. But my mom obviously didn't believe me. She lifted my sleeve and saw the shocking cuts all over my arm. Then, I saw her mouth stretch into a grin, her red lips pulling back almost to her ears. My mom's pupils grew darker and darker. I don't know what came over me, but my first instinct was to throw myself into her arms. "Mom, please don't be angry," I repeated over and over in a small voice, even though I was terrified beyond belief. But when I was little, this always worked. It would calm her down. Her long nails traced a line along my neck. "But you're hurt. Your brother is very angry too." There were no windows in our apartment, but a cold gust of wind blew past my ear. It felt like someone was breathing on me. The door to the room next to mine, my brother's room, was pushed open from the inside without a sound. On the altar inside, there was a black and white photo of a young man. He was smiling at me, but a wave of nausea and dread rose up from the base of my spine. The next moment, the 3 incense sticks burning in front of his photo snapped in half, all at once, without being touched. Just then, the piercing ring of my phone shattered the silence. My phone was ringing. I answered it, my hand shaking. I heard the voices of my bullies on the other end. "Lucy, we're downstairs. Get your ass down here now, or I'll burn your whole family's shithole apartment to the ground." The boy's aggressive voice crackled through the phone. My body trembled. They had talked about coming to my house to livestream, to show their followers how a poor family lives. I never thought they'd actually do it. "No, don't. Please don't come up," I begged, my voice cracking. But all I heard was a string of vicious curses. The next second, my mom took the phone from me. She opened her crimson lips, and I could see her teeth. They were inhumanly sharp. "Is this one of Lucy's classmates? I'll have her come down and get you right now. I'd be delighted to have you over as guests." I was on the verge of tears. Anyone who wasn't a resident of this building, anyone who came inside, never came out alive. I remember when I was very little, a kind man gave me a ride home. When he heard I was home alone, he offered to come in and wait with me. I agreed instantly. All the other kids at kindergarten were afraid of me because of my mom. But that man, he never left the apartment building. It was like he got lost inside. But I can still see him, even now. He's hanging from one of the apartment windows outside. Every night, the wind makes his body sway back and forth. The tips of his shoes tap against the window, making a soft thump sound. Sometimes, I accidentally make eye contact with his pale, bluish face. He'll make a pained, gurgling sound in his throat. I was wrong. Let me go. I shouldn't have had those bad thoughts about her. After that, I never dared to bring anyone to the apartment again. "Come on, Lucy. Let's go welcome your friends," my mom said gently. But I saw it. For just a split second, her long tongue snaked out and licked her crimson lips. My mom seemed excited. Maybe she knew fresh prey had just delivered itself to our door. I clenched my fists. We went downstairs to the lobby. The group of kids who bullied me was standing right outside the main door. The girl in the lead, Chloe, had a pretty angelic face. The moment I saw her, my stomach started to ache. I would never forget how she'd used her expensive little heels to stomp on my stomach, over and over again. "Lucy, remember that ugly cat you were always feeding?" Chloe smiled, a beautiful and vicious smile, the corners of her mouth curling into a cruel arc. "Stomping on your stomach feels just like stomping that cat to death, you know? It's a shame the cat was so much more boring than you. No matter how hard I stepped on it, it didn't even make a sound." I felt something soft and limp thrown at me. It was Leo, the stray cat I always fed near the school. The cat who was always so sweet and affectionate was now lying on my chest, his stomach torn open. The sharp smell of blood mixed with the sight of Leo's unfocused, dead eyes. A desperate, agonized scream tore from my throat. But that only earned me a more vicious beating and their roaring laughter. "Hello, ma'am. We're Lucy's classmates. We're here to do a live stream for a school project. You don't mind, do you?" Chloe asked politely. If you only looked at her, you'd think she was the sweetest, most well-behaved girl. My mom shook her head and grinned. I knew the truth. Why would she mind? It had been a long time since we'd had any outsiders in the building. "Lucy hasn't brought friends home in such a long time. We're so happy to have you. And the pantry could use some fresh supplies." My mom's last sentence was strange and cryptic. Chloe and her friends didn't understand. But I did. Cold sweat trickled down my forehead. I grabbed my mom's hand. I looked at Chloe and the others, desperately shaking my head, mouthing the words "go away." But Chloe just thought I was scared. Her face lit up with even more excitement. She gave a look to the girl next to her, her best friend, Sarah. Sarah understood immediately and started the live stream on her phone. "Chloe, hey everyone, it's your girl Chloe. Today, I'm going to show you all the kind of place our class's poorest student, Lucy, lives in. It's called the Crestview Apartments. Looks like the kind of dump only trash would live in." But as soon as she pointed the camera at us, her brow furrowed. The camera was only showing my mom and me, but on the screen, I could see dozens of face recognition boxes popping up. It was as if there were countless invisible people standing right behind us. Sarah's mouth fell open, clearly confused by what was happening. I secretly opened my phone and went to Chloe's live stream. The chat was flying by. "Holy shit, did you guys just see that? Yeah, but it's probably just a bug, right? What's the big deal? Can't wait to see how Chloe's gonna mess with Lucy." Last stream was awesome. Chloe secretly poured acid into that family's water. Watching them writhe on the floor was hilarious, lol. And the time before that, Kevin forced that guy to eat the dog he'd raised since he was a puppy. You should have seen his face. He was eating and puking at the same time. It was so good, hahaha. Streamer, I'm telling you, you need to get out of there. I can feel the bad vibes through the screen. That building is seriously haunted, probably full of ghosts. If you go in, you're not coming out. The guy above is full of it. Chloe, don't listen to him. But doesn't that building seem a little weird to you guys? I recognize all the buildings around it, but I've never seen this place downtown before. I see the name is the Crestview Apartments. It's weird, I can't find it on any map. That spot is supposed to be an empty lot. These few comments were quickly buried under a flood of others. Chloe and her two friends followed us into the building. The moment they stepped inside, the heavy front door slowly swung shut, cutting off all the noise from the outside world. A powerful sense of unease washed over me. But Chloe and her friends were too busy with their live stream to notice anything was wrong. As soon as they were inside, Chloe's boyfriend, Kevin, sneered, "What is this shithole? Smells like a damn sewer. Figures a loser like her would live here." Kevin's comment made the other two laugh. Sarah deliberately pointed the camera at my mom's face. They seemed to be hoping to see embarrassment or shame on her face. Unfortunately for them, they saw nothing of the sort. My mom just grinned at the camera. Her deathly pale face looked even more bloodless on screen. Just then the doorman, Mr. Price, poked his head out of his office window. His head didn't just pop out normally. It extended out slowly, at a perfect right angle to the wall. "Lucy, you've brought friends home. How nice." I mumbled a nod. "Whoa, dude, you look creepy as hell." Kevin swaggered over, eyeing Mr. Price with a malicious grin. Kevin loved to pick on old people at school. In his words, old people were the most useless things on the planet. They were just trash, wasting society's resources. I'd often seen Kevin kicking and punching the janitors around the school. But one time he went too far. He lost control and beat one of the janitors to death. I happened to be walking by that day. There were splatters of blood on the ground. I can still see the janitor's face. His skull was caved in, a bloody, pulpy mess. Kevin threatened me, saying if I dared to call the cops, he'd snap my neck. But I called them anyway. It came to nothing. Kevin's mom was a powerful woman. For her, it was just a minor inconvenience. The consequence for my call was an hour of Kevin slapping me across the face, over and over. Kevin smirked and grabbed a handful of the doorman's hair. "Listen, old man. Does this whole place stink because of you? We're live right now, so how about this? You get on your knees and bow to me 3 times, and I'll let you go. Otherwise, I'll carve up that ugly face of yours for everyone to see. How about it?" Kevin pulled a switchblade from his pocket and pressed it against the doorman's cheek. Chloe made a half-hearted attempt to stop him, but the excitement on her and Sarah's faces was impossible to hide. "Kevin, don't do this," I whispered. "One more word out of you and I'll slice your face up, too," Kevin snarled at me. My mom seemed to sense my unease. She placed a finger on my lips and smiled, shaking her head. I glanced down at the live stream chat on my phone and was stunned by the comments. Make the old geezer kneel. I can't wait. Wait a sec. Why does that old guy look so familiar? That old man. He looks exactly like that serial killer who was executed. What serial killer? What are you talking about? Look up Arthur Price. He was a serial killer executed 50 years ago for murdering 38 people. He had this habit. He liked to cut a slit at the top of their heads and peel their entire face off while they were still alive. Arthur Price was a surgeon before he was caught. He collected human skin. They said when they arrested him, they found 38 perfectly preserved faces in his house. He'd sewn them all together into a giant rug. My hands trembled as I searched the name Arthur Price. When I saw the photograph of a man with the exact same face as the doorman, I gasped. But Arthur Price was executed 50 years ago. Clearly, Chloe and Sarah had seen the comments too. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Chloe's face. She looked back and forth between her phone and the doorman, her expression turning grim. It's just a coincidence. There's no way, right, Sarah? Sarah's face was pale. She nodded shakily. Yeah, that Arthur Price guy is long dead. Maybe this old man is his brother or something. She forced a weak smile. But I knew the truth. The doorman really could be Arthur Price. Mr. Price stared at Kevin, his expression still rigid, but the corners of his mouth slowly curled upwards. Such young skin, he grumbled from deep in his throat. He reached out and grabbed Kevin's arm. What the hell, you old fossil? You got a death wish? Kevin yelled, kicking the doorman hard. But in the next second his expression changed. Mr. Price's grip on his arm didn't loosen. His thin, withered arm had incredible strength. With a slight tug, he started pulling Kevin's entire body toward the security office. A look of real fear finally appeared on Kevin's face. He started to struggle, his hands scrabbling for a hold on the wall. Chloe and Sarah were frozen in shock, just staring at the scene. Just as Kevin was about to be dragged halfway into the office, my mom spoke. Mr. Price, these children are my guests today. You can't be so impatient. My mom's pale face looked ghostly in the dim light. Mr. Price paused, then slowly released his grip. I almost forgot, these are Lucy's friends. We can't give them such a simple welcome, can we? A strange, hoarse laugh rumbled in his throat. Kevin scrambled to his feet, all his earlier arrogance gone. Seeing him look so pathetic, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Sarah's voice trembled. Maybe we should just go home for today? Chloe glanced at me. She gritted her teeth. No one is leaving. What's there to be afraid of? It's all just a coincidence. At that moment, the overhead light in the lobby began to flicker violently. In the strobing light, my mom's and Mr. Price's faces looked even more bloodless and corpse-like. More viewers were flooding into the live stream, and the chat was exploding. Doesn't Lucy's mom seem weird to you guys? It's summer, but she's wearing a thick red coat, all bundled up. I knew something was off. And the scariest part is, I feel like that woman is staring at me. No matter where I look on the screen, her eyes are locked on mine. Holy shit, me too. It's like she can see me through the screen. Someone said this place wasn't for the living. You think it's true? I live right near here. I walk down this street every day after school. I swear to God, the spot where the Crestview Apartments is supposed to be is an empty lot. There is no apartment building there. Dude, stop, you're scaring me. Is this a real ghost hunt? I saw Chloe and her friends read the comments, their eyes darting nervously toward my mom. Fear was creeping into their eyes. But it was too late. No outsider who entered this building ever left. Shit, Kevin muttered under his breath. Do you know what it felt like when I kicked that old guy? It was like kicking a piece of rotten meat. It didn't feel like a living person at all. Kevin's words made Chloe and Sarah even more nervous. Oh, Lucy, have your mom's nails always been that long? I could hear the gulp in Sarah's voice. Everyone's gaze fell on my mom's fingernails. Their faces grew paler. A visible look of pleasure spread across my mom's face. Long press-on nails are in style, aren't they? But I knew she was lying. When I was little, the terrifying memories would wrap around my mind, becoming a recurring nightmare I couldn't escape. One night, woken by a bad dream, I tiptoed out of my room to find my mom for comfort. But I saw her, using her sharp nails to pry open the top of a person's skull. After that day, I never dared to get close to my mom again, because I knew she was a monster. A monster that liked to eat living human brains. Hearing my mom's explanation, Chloe and the others seemed to relax a little. Just then, the elevator in front of us dinged, and the door slid open. "Let's go up," my mom chirped happily. I saw Chloe hesitate in front of the elevator. Inside, the woman with hair down to her waist stood as she always did, in her red high heels, on her tiptoes, with her back to us. "What is that?" Sarah said, her voice so cold I could feel the chill coming off it. This was nothing like the girl who usually tormented me. Of the three of them, Sarah's family was the most ordinary. But she was also the one who came up with the cruelest ideas when they bullied me. I remember one time, I accidentally dropped the milkshakes I had bought for them. Sarah said coolly, "If you can't even hold a drink, maybe you don't need hands." Kevin held me down. Sarah pulled off my fingernails one by one. I cried and begged them to stop. But the expressions on all three of their faces were filled with a cruel, ecstatic excitement. "She's a resident of our building. She's lived here for a long time," I explained, trying to be helpful. The moment we all stepped into the elevator, the light went out without a sound. The screams of Chloe and her friends echoed in my ears. The elevator lights often had power issues. It was normal for them to go out. But what terrified me most was the sudden explosion of comments in the live stream. "Look at the mirror in the elevator. Holy fuck, what is that? Streamer in the mirror, there's." The flood of comments made me instinctively turn my head. In the mirror, I saw that around our feet, there were dozens of pale, bloodless feet. They were packed in tightly around us, as if the elevator were full of people. Chloe let out a terrified scream. Clearly they saw it too. "Fuck. I'm getting out of here," Kevin yelled, frantically mashing the open door button. But the elevator just kept going up. The building only had 8 floors. But now the glowing red numbers were climbing past 18. A whimper of fear escaped my lips. My mom covered my ears. "Don't be afraid, Lucy. Mommy and the others will never let anyone hurt you." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the long hair on the back of the high-heeled woman's head slowly part. For the first time, I saw her face clearly. Her face was on the back of her head, and her mouth, an impossibly wide, red gash, took up half of it. I had never so clearly understood the fact that the residents of this building were not human. The woman seemed to notice me looking. Her black, soulless eyes swiveled to the corner of their sockets. My body shuddered, and I quickly looked down. The elevator was in chaos. The sound of Kevin furiously kicking the door. Chloe's tearful screams. But they didn't seem to notice that the woman's face was now right behind Sarah. She opened her mouth. I could clearly see the rows upon rows of sharp, dense teeth inside. Sarah didn't even have time to react. The next second, her head disappeared into the woman's mouth. In the darkness, I heard a sickening, wet crunching sound. It sounded just like someone eating a very juicy piece of fruit. But what splattered out was Sarah's blood. Warm blood sprayed onto my face. But it seemed like I was the only one who noticed Sarah being eaten. Her entire body was devoured. Despite the loud chewing and the chunks of flesh on the floor, Chloe and Kevin were completely oblivious. "Here, a gift for you." The woman let out a satisfied burp and held out her hand to me. Lying quietly in her blood-soaked palm were 3 fingernails. Sarah had once pulled 3 of my fingernails off. "She hurt you," the woman rasped, her voice like an animal trying to imitate human speech. "You look scared, Lucy." For the first time, she haltingly said my name. "You don't like it?" I stared at the 3 bloody fingernails, unable to say the word like. The woman tilted her head, watching me, as if she would hold her hand out forever if I didn't take them. My mom patted my shoulder. "Lucy, if you don't accept her gift, she'll be sad. She used to hold you when you were a baby, you know." A memory flashed in my mind. The woman in the elevator hadn't always been here. She appeared one day when I was 5. At 5, I didn't think her strange appearance was scary. I stood on my tiptoes and touched her hair. "Your hair is so long and pretty, miss." The next thing I knew, someone was picking me up. It didn't even occur to me that there was anything wrong with her face being on the back of her head. "My name is Lucy. Can you be my big sister?" In a daze, I thought I heard her say okay. But ever since I got older, I was too scared to go near her. I met her terrifying, bloodshot eyes. And I saw a look of cautious hope in them. My hand shaking, I reached out and took the 3 fingernails. They were warm, and they smelled of blood. But they were a gift from my sister. The next second, the elevator stopped rising. The light bulb flickered back on. Chloe and Kevin were panting, still in shock. Suddenly, they realized something was wrong. Where's Sarah? Where did Sarah go? Chloe asked, her face a mask of terror. A living person had just vanished inside the elevator. After confirming that Sarah was truly gone, Kevin's face turned ugly. Fuck. What the hell is this place? He screamed, kicking the mirror beside him. The mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. In the broken shards, I saw Kevin's face fractured into countless pieces. But in every single shard, Kevin's reflection was grinning bizarrely back at him. Kevin saw it too. He was terrified. This boy, who usually solved every problem with his fists, was now cowering in the corner, trembling. I want out. I want to leave this place. Compared to Kevin, Chloe seemed a bit calmer. She slapped him hard across the face. Can you pull yourself together for 1 second? Just then, the elevator doors opened. My mom slowly turned her head and said with a smile, "Welcome to our home." The moment the doors opened, Chloe grabbed Kevin and they bolted out. But they didn't know. From the moment they came in, there was no way out. The light bulbs in the hallway hissed and sparked. A hunched figure appeared at the bend in the stairs, blocking Chloe and Kevin's path. When I saw who it was, my eyes widened in horror. It was the janitor Kevin had beaten to death. He looked exactly as he had when he died. A pale bluish face, with a deep, caved-in wound on his forehead. Thick blood and brain matter oozed from it, making him look exceptionally terrifying. The expression on Kevin's face turned to one of pure horror. He stared at the janitor, his eyes bulging to an impossible degree. "No way you're dead. I saw them take your body away." A hammer appeared in the janitor's hand. It looked exactly like the one I saw Kevin use to bash the janitor's head in. Pure terror flooded Kevin's face. He turned and ran like a cornered animal in the opposite direction. My mom watched him go but didn't try to stop him. Chloe gritted her teeth and followed Kevin, running down the other set of stairs. I opened the live stream on my phone. Chloe should have been too busy to stream. But it was as if an invisible person was holding the camera, documenting their every move. They fled, running down flight after flight of stairs. But the staircase seemed to have no end. It just descended into an infinite darkness. Finally, I saw Chloe and Kevin reappear in front of me, their faces contorted with fear. How is this possible? I was running down. How did we end up back here? Chloe cried, completely breaking down. The janitor with the caved-in head was slowly walking toward Kevin. Kevin had no energy left to run. He waved his small knife around wildly, like a madman. Finally, his eyes landed on me. Like he was grabbing a lifeline, Kevin lunged forward and grabbed me. The cold tip of the knife pressed against my throat. "Let me and Chloe leave, or I'll kill Lucy. I don't know if you're people or ghosts, but I know Lucy is a living, breathing person. Don't think I won't do it. I've killed people before. More than one." My mom's face instantly turned cold as ice. Before Kevin could even react, my mom's sharp nails sliced across his throat. Kevin's eyes widened in disbelief. I took the chance to shove him away and run to my mom's side. Blood sprayed from Kevin's throat. Chloe let out a piercing scream. Kevin wasn't dead yet. He struggled, trying to crawl away on the floor. But in the next second, the janitor was standing over him. The hammer came down hard on Kevin's forehead. He didn't even have time to make a sound before he went completely still. Then, I saw a white light appear around the janitor's body. He quickly faded away into the light. "Mom, isn't Grandpa staying?" I asked, confused. "His wish has been fulfilled. The only ones who stay here are those whose wishes are not yet complete," my mom explained gently. Chloe was finally, truly scared. She dropped to her knees in front of me. She started banging her head on the floor, apologizing over and over. Soon, her delicate forehead was bleeding. "Lucy, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I shouldn't have bullied you. I was wrong. Please give me a chance. Hit me. Hit me to let off some steam." Chloe was a sobbing, snot-nosed mess. She looked like a pathetic clown. But it was too late for all that now. I had warned them not to come in. Lucy, your brother says he's hungry. He wants some fresh food. Hearing my mom's words, I shivered. Chloe realized something was wrong and tried to run. But my mom's nails dug directly into her face. Chloe let out a blood-curdling scream. The next scene was so gory I could barely watch. With a gentle flick of her wrist, my mom peeled Chloe's face clean off. Mr. Price has been watching over this building for so many years. It's time we gave him a gift. From Chloe's bloody, skinless face, tears of blood began to stream. She opened her mouth and reached a hand out to me. Save me. I sniffled. Mom, can we maybe? But my mom stopped me before I could finish. Lucy, you're still too soft-hearted. You were bullied. Your brother was very angry about that. The next second, the door to our apartment creaked open. A cold, foul wind blew out from inside. I couldn't help but shiver. An invisible force dragged Chloe backward into the apartment. She dug her fingers into the floor, struggling with all her might. But soon, all of her fingernails had broken off, leaving bloody streaks on the ground. With a final, terrified scream, Chloe was dragged inside. She was pulled into the room with my brother's photograph. The next moment, the door slammed shut. A dead silence fell over the room. My heart was pounding in my chest. Soon, the door slowly creaked open again. Chloe was gone. It was as if she had never been there. In the black and white photo on the altar, my brother's smile seemed even wider. I curled into a ball, a chilling cold spreading from my fingertips through my whole body. In a daze, I heard the low, deep sigh of a young man. Lucy. No one is allowed to bully my Lucy. Epilogue. I can see Chloe and her friends in the apartment now. Every night, a girl with no face wanders the hallways. Whenever she sees someone, she cries and asks, "Have you seen my skin?" Sometimes, I see Sarah in the corner. She pulls out her own fingernails, one by one, her face twisted in agony. "Let me go. Please let me go," she chants over and over. Today, when I got home from school, Mr. Price was mopping the floor. He saw me and grinned. "Lucy, you're back." I glanced over, and my expression froze in horror. The thing the doorman was using as a mop wasn't a mop at all. It was unmistakably Kevin's head. His head was completely flattened, and it was being slammed against the floor, over and over again. "Spare me." Kevin's head mop let out a pained, pitiful wail. But the thing that scared me the most was, I pushed down my fear and walked into my apartment. A pale, slender hand reached out and stroked my head. "Lucy, you're home." The face that had only existed in a photograph was now standing right in front of me. A deathly pale face, with pupils that were far too dark. The young man's face was unsettling. There was a smear of bright red on the corner of his lips. "Lucy, brother has a gift for you today. I noticed a few disgusting men were following you on your way home. What can I say? My little Lucy is just too beautiful." The smile on my brother's face was like he was showing me a precious treasure. But what he placed in the palm of my hand were 6 human eyeballs strung together. I really hated the way those men were looking at you, so I took their eyes. "Do you like it, Lucy?" My lips trembled, but I couldn't form a single word. It all came out as a terrified whimper. But I know the story of the Crestview Apartments is far from over. It will continue to draw in the wicked. The end.